Did you know there's a humble kitchen herb that doesn't just flavor your food, but actually slows aging at the cellular level? In fact, a 2021 study in the journal Frontiers in Pharmacology revealed that compounds inside this herb can activate the same protective pathways in your cells that scientists call the longevity switches. Yet, almost nobody over 60 has ever been told this. I'm Dr. Howard Tucker, and for decades, I've worked as a longevity doctor helping seniors extend both their lifespan and their health span. And today I'm going to show you how this overlooked herb works like a cellular shield, fighting oxidative stress, calming silent inflammation, and even boosting mitochondrial energy, the very engines that keep your body young. Because here's the truth, aging isn't just about birthdays. It's about what happens to your cells minute by minute, and with the right daily habit, you can slow down that clock in ways most doctors never explain. Now, you may be wondering, if this herb is so powerful, why don't you hear 30-year-olds raving about it? Why is it that the real benefits only seem to show up in people over 60? The answer lies in how our biology changes with age. You see, younger bodies already run on high efficiency. Their mitochondria, the energy factories inside every cell, are abundant and strong. Their antioxidant defenses are naturally high. But as we age, those defenses start to falter. By the time you're in your 60s, cellular damage from free radicals can outpace your body's natural repair systems. This is why skin wrinkles faster, memory feels foggier, and joints grow stiffer with every passing decade. And this is exactly where herbs like rosemary step in. Yes, the very same rosemary you might sprinkle on roasted potatoes is now being studied in anti-aging labs for its remarkable effects on senior biology. Rosemary contains carnosic acid and rosmarinic acid, two powerful polyphenols that act almost like cellular bodyguards. In younger adults, these compounds are helpful, but in seniors, they're life-changing. That's because the aging body craves extra antioxidant and anti-inflammatory support to stay balanced. Here's what researchers are finding. Studies published in the Journal of Neurochemistry show that carnosic acid can cross the blood-brain barrier, where it helps protect aging neurons from oxidative stress. This means it doesn't just support sharper memory, it actually helps slow down the cellular wear and tear that contributes to neurodegeneration. That's a gift most younger adults don't need yet, but for someone over 65, it can be the difference between mental clarity and cognitive decline. But the brain isn't the only winner here. Rosemary compounds also trigger the body's NRF2 pathway, often called the master switch of cellular defense. When activated, this switch tells your cells to ramp up their own production of antioxidant enzymes. Think of it like flipping a breaker box that turns on dozens of repair systems at once. For a younger person, this pathway is already humming along. For a senior, it often sits dormant. Rosemary acts like the key that restarts the system. Even the heart feels the difference. A clinical trial in phytotherapy research revealed that seniors who regularly consumed rosemary extracts saw measurable improvements in circulation and reductions in markers of chronic inflammation. This matters because poor circulation is one of the silent culprits behind fatigue, brain fog, and muscle weakness in older adults. Younger bodies can compensate more easily. Seniors, on the other hand, often notice every improvement in blood flow, energy, and stamina. Now, there's another reason rosemary seems to work better for aging adults. As we get older, our digestion slows down. Stomach acid decreases, making it harder to extract nutrients from food. But rosemary contains compounds that stimulate digestive enzymes, enhancing the absorption of essential nutrients like B12, calcium, and magnesium. That means seniors not only get the direct anti-aging effects of the herb, but they also unlock more nutrition from every meal they eat. And let me share something fascinating. Scientists at the University of Maryland found that rosemary's impact on mitochondrial health is amplified in older cells. Younger mitochondria don't need as much help. They're still running efficiently. But in seniors, these energy plants often sputter. Rosemary seems to repair and stabilize the mitochondrial membranes, essentially upgrading tired engines so they burn cleaner and last longer. So, when I say this herb works better for seniors than for younger adults, it's not marketing, it's biology. Younger people may not feel the difference because their bodies already run near peak performance. But when a senior introduces rosemary into their daily diet, the contrast is dramatic. Suddenly, joints move more smoothly, memory feels sharper, digestion eases, and energy rises in ways that can be measured and felt. That's why I often tell my patients what looks like an ordinary kitchen spice is actually a therapeutic tool for aging. It's not about adding exotic supplements or expensive pills. It's about learning how to use these simple, powerful compounds strategically. Because your body at 70 responds very differently than it did at 30. And the most exciting part? We're only scratching the surface of what rosemary can do. In the next section, we'll dive into the science of aging in reverse, and I'll walk you through what really happens in your cells when this herb goes to work. When we talk about aging, most people imagine wrinkles, gray hair, or sore joints. But the truth is, aging begins long before you see it in the mirror. It starts deep inside your cells, where every second tiny sparks of damage are happening. Scientists call these sparks free radicals. Left unchecked, they chip away at DNA, weaken cell membranes, and exhaust your mitochondria, the power plants of your body. Now here's the breakthrough. Rosemary contains natural compounds that don't just cover up this damage. They actually flip molecular switches that help your body rebuild and repair itself. This is what I mean when I say it feels like aging in reverse. Now here's something most people overlook. Herbs like rosemary can flip powerful cellular switches, but they work best when your body is given the right signals from movement. Think of it this way. Rosemary provides the raw materials for repair, but movement tells your body where to do the repairs. Without that signal, your body doesn't know whether to strengthen muscles, reinforce bones, or restore balance. And here's the part that surprises many seniors. You don't need hours in a gym. In fact, the research shows it's the small, consistent daily movements that combine with rosemary's compounds to keep your body biologically younger. Take walking, for example. A simple 15 to 20-minute brisk walk after meals does more than help digestion. It increases blood flow, which delivers rosemary's antioxidant compounds directly to your cells where they can work. Studies in the Journal of Gerontology show that seniors who walk daily not only improve circulation, but also see measurable reductions in inflammatory markers. Pair that with rosemary, which is already lowering oxidative stress, and suddenly you have a 1-2 punch that helps joints stay flexible and minds stay sharp. But walking isn't the only key. Strength is just as important. After the age of 60, adults lose about 1% of muscle mass every year unless they actively work to maintain it. And weaker muscles mean slower metabolism, weaker bones, and greater fall risk. But here's the good news. Resistance movements, yes, even light ones, supercharge the effects of rosemary. Why? Because resistance training creates microscopic tears in muscle fibers. Rosemary's polyphenols reduce the inflammation from those tiny tears while boosting the mitochondria's ability to repair them. That means you rebuild stronger and faster than if you exercised alone. A practical example. Try chair squats. Sitting down and standing up from a sturdy chair 10 to 15 times engages your largest muscles, the quadriceps and glutes. These are the very muscles that keep seniors independent. Pair that movement with a rosemary-rich lunch, and you're signaling your body to direct those antioxidant compounds into muscle recovery. Over time, that simple practice can help reverse frailty and restore stability. Balance exercises are another overlooked secret. Aging cells in the brain's cerebellum, the part that controls balance, are vulnerable to oxidative stress. That's why falls become more common with age. Rosemary helps protect those neurons. Add in a daily balance exercise, like standing on one leg for 20 seconds while holding a countertop, and you reinforce those neural pathways. The herb reduces oxidative damage, while the movement strengthens the brain-to-body connection. The result? Better balance, sharper reflexes, fewer falls. Now let's not forget flexibility. Stretching gently in the morning or evening signals your connective tissues to stay elastic. Rosemary compounds, particularly rosmarinic acid, reduce inflammation in those tissues, allowing them to stretch without micro-tears. Something as simple as reaching both arms overhead and slowly twisting side to side can keep the spine more youthful. And when combined with the herb's cellular protection, your tissues recover faster and stay supple longer. Even breathing exercises matter. Deep diaphragmatic breathing increases oxygen flow to mitochondria, which rosemary compounds are actively protecting. Try this. Sit upright, place your hands on your belly, and inhale deeply for a count of 4, feeling your abdomen rise. Exhale slowly for a count of 6. Just 5 minutes a day calms stress hormones that accelerate aging while boosting delivery of oxygen to your cells. Rosemary's polyphenols then ensure those oxygen molecules are used efficiently, reducing damage and improving energy. Here's what ties all of this together. Synergy. Rosemary slows the breakdown, while movement builds the repair. Together, they create a cycle of renewal. Movement directs the herb's compounds to muscles, joints, nerves, and even brain cells where they are needed most. The result is not just more years in your life, but more life in your years, more strength to lift groceries, more balance to climb stairs safely, more clarity to remember names and stories that matter. And the beauty is, none of this requires extreme exercise or expensive programs. It's about weaving small rituals into your daily life, rituals that, when paired with rosemary, keep your cells younger, your energy higher, and your independence intact. One of the questions I hear most often from my patients is this: Doctor, how will I know if this is actually working? And the answer is encouraging, because your body leaves subtle but powerful clues when it's beginning to repair itself. These signs may not look dramatic at first, but together they're evidence that your cells are running younger than they did before. The first and most common sign is morning energy. Seniors who combine rosemary with daily movement often report that they wake up feeling lighter, less groggy, and more ready to start the day. Why? Because rosemary's compounds are reducing overnight inflammation and oxidative stress. That means instead of spending the night fighting hidden cellular damage, your body spends it repairing and restoring. Waking refreshed is one of the earliest signals that your cells are finally winning the battle. Another early sign is less stiffness in your joints. Chronic inflammation is one of the biggest drivers of arthritis-like stiffness. Rosemary's rosmarinic acid lowers the very markers of inflammation that create that tight or creaky feeling in the morning. Patients tell me they notice it when tying their shoes feels easier, or when climbing stairs doesn't demand as much effort. It's not just in their imagination. Blood work in clinical trials shows reduced C-reactive protein, an inflammation marker, after consistent rosemary intake. Then comes mental clarity. Remember, rosemary's carnosic acid crosses the blood-brain barrier and protects neurons. Seniors often describe it as if a fog is lifting. They can recall names more quickly, follow conversations with less struggle, or remember where they placed their glasses. This is one of the clearest signs that cellular rebuilding is taking place in the brain itself. In fact, in a study published in the Journal of Medicinal Food, older adults given small daily doses of rosemary extract performed significantly better on memory tests compared to those who didn't. You may also notice improved digestion. Seniors frequently deal with bloating or discomfort after meals because stomach acid and enzyme production decline with age. Rosemary naturally stimulates digestive enzymes, which helps break down food more efficiently. That means fewer nutrients are lost and more are absorbed. Patients often tell me they feel lighter after meals, not weighed down. That's a sign your digestive cells are working at a younger level. Another clue is steadier energy through the day. Many seniors describe the dreaded afternoon crash where energy collapses around 2 or 3 p.m. Rosemary helps stabilize blood sugar and improve mitochondrial efficiency. So instead of running out of fuel mid-afternoon, your cells keep burning steadily. You'll know it's working when you're able to finish your errands or enjoy an afternoon walk without feeling drained. Don't overlook the skin either. Rosemary is rich in antioxidants that protect collagen and elastin, the very proteins that keep skin firm and resilient. Early signs of rebuilding often show up as a slight glow, fewer feelings of dryness, or a healthier complexion. For seniors, that's more than cosmetic. It's evidence that your connective tissues, the same ones supporting your joints and blood vessels, are also being fortified. Now, here's a fascinating sign. Better balance. Remember, rosemary protects the neurons in your cerebellum, the brain's balance center. Seniors who practice simple balance exercises while including rosemary often notice they feel more stable on their feet. The fear of stumbling lessens. That shift in confidence is itself a marker of cellular repair in the nervous system. And one more subtle sign: improved sleep quality. Rosemary has been shown to modulate GABA receptors in the brain, which help calm overactive neurons. Seniors often notice they fall asleep more easily and wake fewer times during the night. When sleep deepens, the body releases more growth hormone, which accelerates tissue repair. So that single change, better rest, is actually a cascade of cellular rebuilding happening every night. Here's the key takeaway: these signs don't happen all at once. They build gradually, like puzzle pieces forming a picture of renewed vitality. A bit more energy in the morning, a little less stiffness, sharper focus, easier digestion. Together they confirm that rosemary and movement are not just slowing aging, they're actively reversing the damage that's already been done. And when you see these early signs, it's your body's way of saying, keep going. Because the longer you stay consistent, the more dramatic the results become. Now that you understand how rosemary slows aging at the cellular level, and you've seen the early signs of rebuilding, the real power comes when you make it a ritual, woven into your everyday life so it becomes second nature. Because one serving here or there is helpful, but consistency is what transforms the herb from a seasoning into a true longevity tool. So, how do you do it? Let's start with the kitchen. Fresh rosemary sprigs are powerful, but even dried rosemary carries those anti-aging polyphenols. The key is making sure you consume enough regularly to activate those cellular pathways. In most clinical studies, benefits show up with about 1 to 2 teaspoons a day, easily achieved by sprinkling it into meals. Here's a simple example. Breakfast. If you enjoy eggs, add a pinch of rosemary as they cook. That small habit not only adds flavor, it also delivers carnosic acid directly to your bloodstream as you start the day. Pair it with a short morning walk, and you've already created a synergy between nutrition and movement before 9 a.m. At lunch, toss chopped rosemary into soups, salads, or roasted vegetables. One of my patients started blending a sprig of fresh rosemary into her homemade vinaigrette, olive oil, lemon juice, and garlic. Not only did her salads taste better, but within weeks she noticed her digestion felt smoother, a sign her gut cells were responding. Dinner is another golden opportunity. Rosemary pairs naturally with proteins like chicken, salmon, or even lentils. But here's the science-backed trick: combine it with a source of healthy fat. The polyphenols in rosemary are fat-soluble, meaning they're absorbed more efficiently when eaten with olive oil, avocado, or even a handful of nuts. This is why the Mediterranean diet, rich in herbs, olive oil, and fish, has been linked to longer lifespans. It's not just the nutrients, it's how they're combined. But the ritual doesn't end in the kitchen. Remember, rosemary works best when paired with movement. That doesn't mean you need to overhaul your life. It means building micro-movements into your day. After your rosemary-infused lunch, take a 10-minute walk. After dinner, practice 5 minutes of balance or stretching. These are not workouts, they are signals to your cells. And when those signals meet rosemary's compounds, your body responds like it's decades younger. For those who prefer beverages, rosemary tea is another ritual that's easy to adopt. Steep a sprig of fresh rosemary in hot water for 10 minutes, and you'll create a fragrant infusion rich in rosmarinic acid. Sipping this in the afternoon can calm inflammation, improve focus, and replace the coffee crash with steadier energy. Some of my patients have even replaced their second cup of coffee with rosemary tea, and they report sharper mental clarity without jitters. What about supplements? While rosemary extract capsules exist, I always encourage whole food rituals first. That's because the act of preparing, smelling, and tasting herbs engages multiple senses. Research shows this sensory stimulation has its own positive effects on the brain, particularly in seniors. In fact, just inhaling rosemary aroma has been shown in small studies to improve memory and alertness. That means even keeping a rosemary plant on your windowsill isn't just decorative, it's therapeutic. Now here's the most important part of the ritual: stacking habits. If you try to build a brand new lifestyle overnight, it won't last. But if you stack rosemary onto things you already do, your morning eggs, your lunchtime salad, your evening tea, it becomes effortless. And when paired with 5 minutes of stretching after brushing your teeth or a short walk after meals, you've created a daily rhythm that builds resilience without feeling like work. Over time, this rhythm becomes your body's new normal. More energy, smoother joints, sharper memory, calmer digestion. Not because of one giant change, but because of tiny, repeated signals. Herb plus movement day after day that reprogram your cells to behave as if they were younger. And here's the part I love most. These rituals don't just add years to your life, they add life to your years. They mean carrying groceries without fatigue, walking stairs without fear, and remembering conversations with clarity. They mean independence, confidence, and vitality that lasts. When you practice a ritual daily, the benefits don't just add up, they multiply. And with Rosemary, the long-term payoff is about more than just feeling good in the moment. It's about shifting the trajectory of aging itself, because what begins as less stiffness in the morning can evolve into years of independence, strength, and clarity that most people your age simply don't experience. Here's what the science shows. Over months of consistent rosemary intake, the body's antioxidant defenses don't just improve temporarily, they reset to a higher baseline. Imagine your cells moving through the world with stronger shields, day after day, year after year. That means less DNA damage, fewer zombie cells clogging up tissues, and a slower march toward frailty. One of the biggest long-term payoffs is protection against cognitive decline. Memory loss isn't an inevitable part of aging. It's strongly influenced by inflammation and oxidative stress. Rosemary's carnosic acid and rosmarinic acid, when consumed regularly, create a protective environment for neurons. Over years, this translates into sharper memory, stronger recall, and a lower risk of degenerative brain conditions. In fact, populations that follow herb-rich diets like the Mediterranean diet have significantly lower rates of age-related cognitive decline. Rosemary isn't the only factor, but it's a powerful contributor. Another long-term payoff is better heart and circulation health. Rosemary improves blood flow by dilating blood vessels and reducing chronic inflammation in arterial walls. Over time, this helps prevent the stiffening and narrowing that lead to heart disease and stroke. Seniors who weave rosemary into their diet consistently often notice that activities that once left them breathless, climbing stairs, walking long distances, become easier. That's because their circulation is running more like that of a younger person. And then there's bone and muscle preservation. Studies suggest rosemary compounds help regulate calcium and collagen metabolism, both of which are critical for strong bones and connective tissue. Paired with simple daily movements, the herb reduces the rate of bone loss and supports muscle repair. The payoff is not just avoiding fractures, it's maintaining the ability to garden, carry groceries, or dance at a grandchild's wedding well into your 80s and beyond. Even the immune system ages more gracefully with rosemary. Chronic inflammation weakens immune defenses, but by keeping that fire low, rosemary helps the immune system stay alert and effective. Long term, this means fewer infections, faster recovery from illness, and a stronger barrier against the diseases that most commonly shorten lifespan. But perhaps the greatest payoff isn't one you'll see in lab results. It's one you'll feel in your daily life. It's the confidence of knowing your body isn't on a downhill slide, but is instead holding steady, even gaining ground. Imagine being in your 70s or 80s and still able to travel comfortably, still sharp enough to learn new things, still resilient enough to recover quickly when challenges arise. That's what a daily rosemary ritual, paired with consistent movement, sets in motion. And here's the secret most people miss: the benefits compound over time. Every day you eat rosemary and move your body, you're not just helping today, you're setting the stage for tomorrow. It's like depositing small amounts into a savings account that grows with interest. 6 months from now, your health account looks dramatically different. 5 years from now, you may be living with a vitality that others your age barely recognize. I've seen this firsthand in my patients. Those who commit to small daily habits, sprinkling rosemary on meals, sipping it as tea, walking after dinner, practicing balance, are the ones who arrive at 85 still active, still independent, still joyful. They aren't fighting decline. They're living proof that aging can be slowed, and in many ways, reversed. And that brings us to a powerful truth. It's not about adding more years to the end of your life. It's about adding more life to the years you already have. Rosemary isn't magic, but it is a tool that, when used daily, rewires your body's aging process from the inside out. Now, as we close, I want to leave you with one final thought. You've seen how rosemary works at the cellular level, how movement amplifies its effects, and how small daily rituals can transform into lifelong payoffs. But the real question is this: if one simple herb can do all this, what other everyday foods and habits are hiding in plain sight, waiting to unlock more years of vitality? That's what we'll explore next. So here's what you've discovered today: a simple kitchen herb that doesn't just add flavor, but actively slows aging at the cellular level, protecting your brain, strengthening your heart, and keeping your muscles and bones younger than your years. You've seen how pairing it with small daily movements turns every step, every stretch, every breath into a signal for renewal. And you've learned how those subtle early changes, sharper mornings, easier digestion, clearer memory, grow into long-term resilience. But let me ask you this: if rosemary, one of the most ordinary herbs in your spice rack, holds the power to slow down aging itself, what other everyday foods are hiding the same secret? Which ones are quietly repairing your body and which ones are silently tearing it down? Because the truth is, what you eat and how you move each day are either helping you live younger or speeding up the clock. And in the next video, I'll show you the foods most seniors eat daily that are actually destroying their cells from the inside out. The question now is, will you keep seasoning your life with the habits that slow aging, or will you keep guessing while hidden enemies in your kitchen undo the progress you've made?